As the nation awaits the beginning of the much-anticipated Madlanga Commission, Newzroom Afrika tonight brings you a special broadcast on the road to the inquiry. As promised, I have my colleagues spread out in key locations. First, Vuyo, Mvoko and Ziyanda Ngcobo in Pretoria, where the much-anticipated commission will begin tomorrow. Ngcobo is in Durban. This is at the headquarters where, of course, Lieutenant Ngcobo made those bombshell allegations. We start, of course, first with Vuyo Mvoko to set the scene, essentially, and tell us about the state of readiness from where you are, Vuyo.
Thank you, Veronica, and of course live from the Bridget Mabandla Justice College, from where the bulk of the proceedings will be conducted. It's a good evening from me. Now, over the next couple of hours, we'll be bringing you interviews from here, interviews with people who have been very much a big part of the journey up until now, and we are, of course, in our makeshift studio here at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College. But I am not alone. But before I hand over to my colleague Ziyanda Ngcobo, just to give you a sense, perhaps, of what is happening behind me, and to my left, you have all the cars parked, the media that will be bringing you the story, and on the other side, you have the security quite tight, I must add, as of course everyone gets ready for the proceedings to begin in earnest tomorrow. But before I bring you those interviews, we are promising you, let's get a sense from Ziyanda Ngcobo's vantage point. She's right inside the auditorium from where the hearings will be conducted. Ziyanda Ngcobo.
That's right, Vuyo. It's all systems go. By this time tomorrow, the first day of testimony would have been concluded by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. A moment South Africans are waiting for in anticipation after that now infamous 6th of July briefing, where he exposed what he claims has been the infiltration of the South African police service by criminal syndicates and the underworld, including our judicial system. So let's talk to my analyst for tonight, Alfred de Klerk, about what we can expect tomorrow. Are we waiting in anticipation for nothing here? What we heard on the 6th of July set off a series of events, arrests, Vusi Kat Matlala, and the likes. We've seen litigation by Shedrick Sibia, the Deputy National Police Commissioner, leave of absence. Does that qualify as suspension? There's been plenty of discussion, but when Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi sits down tomorrow morning, what is the first thing you expect to hear?
Well, most of us pray to live in interesting times. Are we living in interesting times? Of course we are. South Africans want to know the basis for these allegations. Firstly, they want to know the scope of the allegations. Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi is seen as being a credible warrior for the South African people, and we will look into him with great anticipation to give us an idea of just how far the rot has gone into our judicial system and, unfortunately, into our safety and security infrastructure and institutions. So it's not only South Africans, it's the region, it's SADC, it's our strategic partners around the globe. They all want to know that these essential public institutions are trustworthy, they're credible, and that their integrity is intact. We've been hearing rumors for many years now, stating back many national commissioners have, unfortunately, fall foul of the law. So is this just the tip of the iceberg? What exactly are these allegations? How far does it extend? And so the work of the commission is but a start of a process that will probably go on for many months.
I mean, what kind of evidence should the KZN top cop bring? So during that 6th of July briefing, he read out WhatsApps allegedly between Brown Mahotsi and Kat Matlala, who was in prison at the time. But is that enough in terms of being able to substantiate claims, the ones that we at least know for now? Perhaps he will be coming with new ones, in particular, of course, because we know that this alleged syndicate is in the underworld and involves even crime intelligence officials.
The strongest evidence is personal testimony, as personal experience, as saying, I was there, this is what I was offered, this is what I refused, and this is what I know from first-hand experience. Every other set of evidence has to be corroborated. And we unfortunately also then have to, not unfortunately, I think it's a process of law, that if you are incriminated by somebody else's testimony, you have your day in court, or you have your day in front of the commission to be able to come and explain yourself, and to be able to come clear your name if that's what's called for. So strongest evidence, personal testimony, saying, I know this because I was there, I have first-hand experience. Everything else is secondary, and everything else, unfortunately, has to be investigated.
In South Africa, we have a tendency when we are looking at any kind of allegation to have heroes and villains. And sometimes, and it seems like in a case such as this one, that might not be the case. How should retired Justice Mwiseli Madlanga manage this commission in such a way that there is enough balance? Yes, he's got terms of reference that he is going to be working with, but to ensure that we're not creating heroes or creating villains just because there's a testimony that's out there and the claims need to be substantiated.
Of course. Unfortunately, South Africans are desperate. We are looking for heroes. We're looking for people who will act be decisive in their actions, make a claim, and be able to substantiate that claim. So South Africans are looking for heroes. Unfortunately, we cannot vilify others in that process. So the judge has to take it slow, has to ensure that all those who come and bear testimony are properly been briefed, understand the implications of them coming to give testimony, and make sure that they don't incriminate themselves, but where they do mention others as part of due process, understand that they will have to substantiate why somebody's name has been mentioned in their testimony. Much like any other court of law, this is not a court of law, but it is a judicial commission of inquiry that may lead to further action. So the judge will have to do what he's always done on the bench, be level-headed, prepare the witnesses properly, make sure that testimonies are captured, that he slows the process down and actually cautions witnesses, if need be, those providing testimony, to say, careful now, you may be incriminating yourself, or substantiate what you're saying, and then be able to take evidence leaders, has to be able to walk us through this story. And the biggest thing that I think the commission, as part of their success, is that it's public, that we can watch it, because South Africans will be hanging on to every word that gets said, every picture that gets broadcast, that we'll be watching. And that is important for a transparent process where people who come will be held accountable, but they'll also be under the spotlight.
I mean, not everything will be transparent, and there is already a huge trust deficit between South Africans and what they understand to have been happening within the South African Police Service. We've seen these factions playing out in the country's courts. You have Shedrick Sibiya, taking on his boss, wanting to go back to work, and the likes. And when it comes to the testimony that won't be made public, how should South Africans navigate that moment? Because at that stage, we would literally have to rely on the commission and the work that they're doing.
And that's the investment of trust. We have to rely on it's the steps that the commission take before they get to a closed-door hearing. It's making sure that when evidence leaders speak, that they come across as credible. They don't come across as biased, and they are not pushing a particular narrative. That they themselves appear open-minded in the questioning that they ask. Not an interrogation. It's a commission of inquiry. It needs to understand what's the story, what substantiates that story, where do we need to go find evidence if we need to go find evidence, and how does the story knit together so that South Africans start getting a picture of the rot that is actually set into our judiciary and into the police, unfortunately.
And South Africans will be seeing and wanting to know that there will be value for the money that is spent on this commission of inquiry, especially because the recommendations will not be binding on the executive. South Africa has seen many movies before that play out when these commissions of inquiry hear a testimony and evidence, the state capture one being the most recent one. So we're much anticipation and South Africans waiting with bated breath for the arrival of KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi.